The first $1,000 you make will feel impossible. Not because the market is against you, not because you're unlucky, but because that first $1,000 forces you to fight the hardest opponent you'll ever face in trading, yourself. There's a moment every trader remembers. It's late at night, laptop open, chart glowing in a dark room. You've watched the videos, back-tested the strategy, maybe even felt confident. Then you place the trade, and suddenly your confidence disappears. Your heart beats faster. You check the chart every minute. You move your stop loss. You close early. You revenge trade, and the account barely moves. That first $1,000 feels like trying to push a car with no engine. Every inch forward costs emotional energy. Doubt, discipline, patience, losses. Here's the truth nobody tells beginners. The first $1,000 is not about money. It's about identity. Before that first $1,000, you are not yet a profitable trader. You're someone trying to become one. And that gap between who you are and who you want to be is where most people quit. Because the first $1,000 demands something bigger than skill. It demands consistency. Think about it. To turn $100 into $1,000 or $500 into $1,000, you don't need one lucky trade. You need controlled risk. You need patience. You need to survive losing streaks. You need to not sabotage yourself when you're up. The market isn't testing your strategy. It's testing your emotional maturity. That's why it feels slow. That's why it feels heavy. That's why it feels unfair. You're not just building capital. You're building habits. And habits grow slower than hype. But here's where everything changes. Once you've proven to yourself that you can make $1,000 the right way, with risk management, discipline, and patience, something powerful happens. You stop chasing. You start executing. You stop gambling. You start thinking in probabilities. You stop needing every trade to win. You start trusting the process. And when that shift happens, scaling from $1,000 to $10,000 becomes mechanical, because now you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're repeating a system. The reason $10,000 is easier than $1,000 isn't because the numbers are smaller at the start. It's because by the time you reach your first real milestone, you've already paid the psychological price. You've built the engine. The first $1,000 installs the engine. The next $9,000 is just fuel. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why that first milestone feels so hard, what it's secretly teaching you, and how to shorten the painful phase without rushing the process. Here's John. John didn't start with $10,000. He started with $312. Not because that was the perfect amount. That was just what he could afford to lose without destroying his life. He had a regular job, woke up early, slept late, charts open on his laptop after dinner, while everyone else was scrolling social media. At first, trading felt exciting. Every green candle felt like validation. Every red candle felt personal. He wasn't trying to get rich. He just wanted to prove to himself that he could do this. The first week he doubled his account. Luck. He didn't know it yet. The second week he gave it all back, button and more. That's when the real journey started, because the first $1,000 isn't blocked by the market. It's blocked by impatience. John thought he needed a better strategy, so he downloaded 5 more. He thought he needed better indicators, so he added 3 more. He thought he needed better entries, but what he actually needed was control. Here's what most beginners don't understand. Small accounts create big emotions. When you're trading $312, every $20 loss feels heavy. Every $15 win feels too small, so you start forcing trades. You increase lot size too early. You move your stop loss because it'll come back. You revenge trade because you want your money back now. John did all of that. Not because he was stupid, because he was human. He wasn't losing because the market was unfair. He was losing because he hadn't separated his identity from his trades. Every loss felt like proof he wasn't good enough. And that's the real reason the first $1,000 is hard. It forces you to confront your ego. When your account is small, you feel like you need to grow it fast. When you feel behind in life, you trade like you're in a race. But trading punishes urgency. One night, after blowing his account for the 3rd time, John didn't open another chart. He opened a notebook, and he wrote one sentence. If I can't manage $300, I don't deserve $3,000. That was the shift. He stopped trying to hit $1,000. He started trying to protect $300. He reduced his risk. He accepted small gains. He stopped trading every setup. He waited. And for the first time, his account didn't explode. It moved slowly, painfully slowly, but it moved up. That's when he realized something powerful. The first $1,000 isn't a money goal. It's a discipline test. And until you pass that test, the market will keep charging you tuition. John didn't become profitable overnight, but he stopped self-destructing. And that's where every real trader's story begins. Let me ask you something. When John kept blowing his $300 accounts, was it really about strategy? Or was it about control? Because if we're honest, most of us don't lose our first accounts due to lack of knowledge. We lose them because we trade like we're trying to escape our current situation. John wasn't chasing pips. He was chasing relief. Relief from feeling behind. Relief from his 9-to-5. Relief from watching other traders post profits online. And that urgency leaked into every trade. This is what we learned from his early mistakes. Small capital magnifies emotional pressure. When you're trying to turn $300 into $1,000 quickly, you naturally increase risk. You over-leverage. You take marginal setups. You trade out of boredom. You break rules just this once. But here's the educational truth most beginners skip. Your job with a small account is not to grow it fast. Your job is to survive long enough to develop consistency. When John wrote that sentence, "If I can't manage $300, I don't deserve $3,000, he unknowingly adopted a professional mindset. He stopped asking, "How much can I make today?" He started asking, "How much can I protect?" That one shift changed everything. Instead of risking 10% per trade, he dropped to 1-2%. Instead of trading 5 random setups a day, he waited for one that matched his plan. Instead of moving his stop loss, he accepted the loss. And something strange happened. His account grew slower now, but his stress dropped faster. That's the paradox of the first $1,000. You think speed will get you there, but discipline is what actually moves you forward. Let me talk to you directly for a second. If your account keeps going up and down, if you feel like you're learning but not progressing, if you keep saying, "I know what to do," but don't execute it, you're not stuck because of strategy. You're stuck because your habits haven't caught up to your ambition. John didn't suddenly become a master trader. He just became harder to break. He accepted that some days would be red. He stopped trying to win every trade. He focused on process over profit. And that's when he had his first full green month. Not huge, not viral worthy, just consistent. And that's when he understood something powerful. The first $1,000 is a psychological barrier, not a mathematical one. Because once you prove to yourself that you can follow rules for 30 days, scaling becomes repetition. But until you control your impulses, the market will keep exposing them. So the real question isn't, what strategy should I use? It's, am I emotionally stable enough to execute one? That's the lesson John learned the hard way. And if you're paying attention, you don't have to. Here's Lucy. Lucy didn't blow her account like John did. She did something quieter. She slowly strangled it. Lucy was careful. She studied. She journaled every trade. She watched hours of market breakdowns on her laptop late at night, telling herself she would only trade when it's perfect. And that was the problem. Perfection. Her first account was $500. Her goal? Just reach $1,000. Double it. Prove she could do it. But unlike John, Lucy wasn't reckless. She was afraid. Every time price came close to her entry, she hesitated. What if this is the one that fails? When she finally entered, she closed early. A setup that could have given her 3R, she'd close at 0.5R. A small pullback against her position, she'd panic and exit. And when the trade eventually hit her original target without her, she'd feel worse than if she lost. Here's what most people don't realize. There are 2 ways to never hit your first $1,000. Overtrading and undertrusting yourself. Lucy didn't trust her edge, even though her strategy worked on backtests, even though her journal showed positive expectancy, even though her risk management was solid. She didn't trust herself to sit through discomfort. So her account did something frustrating. It moved up, then down, then sideways. Weeks passed. She wasn't losing big, but she wasn't growing either. This is another hidden reason the first $1,000 is hard. It forces you to sit in uncertainty without control. You can't force price to move faster. You can't guarantee a win. You can't eliminate drawdowns. All you can control is execution. One night, Lucy reviewed 30 of her past trades, and she noticed something painful. If she had simply followed her plan and held to target, she would have already crossed $1,000. Her strategy wasn't the issue. Her fear was. So she made one rule: no early exits unless structure breaks. The next trade tested her immediately. Price went slightly against her. Her heart raced. Her finger hovered over the close button, but she didn't touch it. She let the trade breathe. It hit full target, not because she predicted perfectly, but because she finally trusted the probabilities. That trade didn't just grow her account. It grew her identity. And this is the deeper lesson. The first $1,000 requires emotional endurance. You must endure losses without revenge. You must endure wins without greed. You must endure pullbacks without panic. John had to control his aggression. Lucy had to control her fear. Different personalities, same barrier. Because the journey to $1,000 is not about finding a perfect system. It's about becoming the kind of person who can execute one consistently. And until you build that version of yourself, your account will reflect your hesitation. Let's pause for a second. Lucy didn't fail because she lacked knowledge. She failed because she didn't trust herself long enough to let her edge play out. And if we're being honest, how many times have you done the same? You mark your levels. You wait for confirmation. You enter with a plan. Then the moment price pulls back a little, fear takes control. You close early. You cut winners short. You protect yourself from temporary pain and sacrifice long-term growth. What we learned from Lucy is powerful. The first $1,000 is blocked by inconsistency, not incompetence. Her strategy already had positive expectancy. But expectancy only works if you let it. This is where education meets reality. A trading edge is just a statistical advantage over a series of trades. Not one trade, not two, a series. If your system wins 55% of the time with a 1.2 risk-to-reward ratio, you don't need perfection. You need repetition, but repetition requires emotional stability. Lucy's breakthrough didn't come from finding a new indicator. It came from building rules that protected her from herself. Here's what she implemented. She predefined risk before entering. She accepted the loss before clicking buy or sell. She set her take profit and stop loss and stepped away from the screen. Not because she didn't care, but because she cared enough to stop interfering. Let me talk to you directly. If you're constantly managing trades emotionally, you're not trading a system. You're trading your mood. And moods change every 5 minutes. That's why the first $1,000 feels so far away, because you're not just fighting the market. You're fighting the urge to override your own plan. Lucy realized something that most beginners ignore. Confidence doesn't come from winning trades. It comes from executing correctly, even when the outcome is uncertain. The moment she measured success by rule following instead of profit, her equity curve started stabilizing. Slowly, not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency is the foundation of scale. You see, $10,000 becomes possible only after you've proven you can repeat disciplined behavior without emotional collapse. The market rewards stability, not excitement. So ask yourself, are you exiting because the setup is invalid, or because you're uncomfortable? Are you skipping trades because the criteria aren't met, or because you're scared to be wrong again? Lucy's story teaches us this. The distance between $500 and $1,000 is discipline, and discipline is invisible. No one claps for the trades you didn't interfere with. No one praises the losses you accepted correctly. But that quiet control, that's what builds the foundation for everything bigger. And if you can master that stage, you're no longer trying to survive, you're preparing to scale. Now let's zoom out. By this point, you've seen John fight impatience. You've seen Lucy fight fear. Two different personalities, two different struggles. But here's what connects them, and maybe connects to you. The first $1,000 feels hard because you're trying to compress time. You want proof fast. You want progress now. You want to feel like this is working. But trading doesn't reward urgency. It rewards math. Let's break it down simply. If you risk 1% per trade with a 1.2 risk-to-reward ratio, You only need to win 4 out of 10 trades to grow. Not 8, not 9, just 4. But here's the catch. Those 10 trades won't come perfectly spaced. You might lose 3 in a row, maybe 4, and if your confidence is fragile, that losing streak will feel like failure, even though it's statistically normal. This is where most traders sabotage their first $1,000. They abandon the plan mid-series. They increase risk to make it back. They switch strategies after a drawdown. They hesitate on the next valid setup because the last one lost. They interrupt the math. John interrupted the math with aggression. Lucy interrupted it with fear. The market doesn't punish you for losing trades. It punishes you for inconsistency. Let me ask you something honestly. Do you have a defined risk per trade? Do you know your strategy's expected win rate? Have you backtested at least 50 trades? Or are you trading based on recent emotion? Because without data, every loss feels personal. With data, losses become expected business expenses. That's the mental upgrade required for the first $1,000. You must shift from emotional trader to statistical thinker. And here's the motivational truth hidden inside the numbers. If your system has edge, growth is inevitable over time. Not overnight, not viral, not dramatic, but inevitable. The reason $10,000 becomes easier later is because once you've built a track record of disciplined execution, scaling is just increasing size, not changing behavior. The behavior is already stable. But in the beginning, you're building that stability from scratch. That's why it feels slow. That's why it feels like nothing is happening. But something is happening. You're rewiring your relationship with risk. You're learning to sit through uncertainty. You're learning to think in probabilities. You're learning to detach from single outcomes. And that transformation? It's worth more than the first $1,000. Because once you truly understand the math and trust it, the market stops feeling like an emotional battlefield. It becomes a structured game of repetition. And repetition is where real growth lives. Now let me be real with you. Everything we talked about with John and Lucy, I've lived both sides. I've been the trader who over-leveraged because I was tired of waiting. And I've been the trader who closed too early because I was scared to lose what little profit I had. I remember staring at my laptop one night, account sitting just under $800, so close to $1,000, and that's when I felt the pressure the most. Not at $200, not at $400, but at $800, because now it felt within reach. Every trade felt heavier. If this wins, I'm almost there. If this loses, I'm going backwards again. And that mindset almost cost me everything. I took a trade that wasn't fully aligned with my plan. It was close enough. I increased my risk slightly because I wanted to push through the barrier. It lost. Then I took another one. Lost again. Within 2 days, I was back near $600. That drop didn't just hurt financially. It exposed something. I was still outcome-focused. I still believed hitting $1,000 would change something about me. But here's what finally shifted my trajectory. I stopped aiming for $1,000. I started aiming for 50 flawless executions. Not profitable trades. Flawless executions. Entry aligned with my model. Risk fixed. No stop movement. No emotional interference. I tracked them one by one. And something surprising happened. When I focused on execution quality instead of profit milestones, the pressure disappeared. Because I could control execution, I couldn't control outcome. That's the mental separation that changed everything. The first $1,000 didn't come from a big win. It came quietly. A series of small, clean trades. A few losses handled correctly. A few winners allowed to hit target. No drama. No revenge trading. No emotional spikes. And when I finally crossed that number, it didn't feel explosive. It felt stable. That's when I understood why $10,000 becomes easier. Because the person who reaches their first disciplined $1,000 is no longer desperate. They've built process. They've built patience. They've built emotional neutrality. And neutrality is powerful. If you're stuck below that first milestone right now, I need you to hear this. It's not a skill ceiling. It's a discipline ceiling. And once you break that ceiling internally, the external numbers start moving differently. The first $1,000 isn't hard because of the market. It's hard because it forces you to evolve. And evolution is uncomfortable. But once you evolve, scaling stops feeling impossible. It starts feeling inevitable. So let's bring everything together. John taught us about impatience, Lucy taught us about fear. The math taught us about probabilities. And my own experience taught us about execution over outcome. Now the only question left is this. What are you going to do with it? Because understanding why the first $1,000 is hard doesn't automatically get you there. Applying the lessons does. Here's the truth most people avoid. You don't need a new strategy right now. You need a tighter structure. You need defined risk, 1% or less per trade. You need a fixed risk-to-reward model. You need a minimum sample size before judging your system. And most importantly, you need rules that protect you from emotional decisions. If you keep changing systems every 2 weeks, you reset the learning curve. If you keep increasing risk after losses, you reset your progress. If you keep closing early because you're uncomfortable, you reset your edge. The first $1,000 is a filter. It filters out the undisciplined. Fate filters out the impatient. It filters out the emotionally reactive. And the market does this on purpose. Because scaling money without scaling maturity is dangerous. Imagine giving a trader $10,000 when they can't handle $500. They wouldn't grow it. They would destroy it faster. So instead of asking, why is this taking so long? Start asking, what is this phase teaching me? Are you learning patience? Are you building data? Are you controlling risk? Are you detaching from single trade outcomes? Because once those traits are real, not motivational quotes but actual behavior, something shifts. You stop trying to make money, you start managing risk. And ironically, that's when money starts to come. The reason $10,000 becomes easier than the first $1,000 is simple. At $10,000, you're no longer proving you can trade. You've already proven it. You're just repeating it at a larger scale. But the version of you who can repeat disciplined behavior consistently, that version is built during the struggle to the first $1,000. So if you're in that stage right now, frustrated, doubting, questioning yourself, understand this. You're not behind. You're in training. And training feels slow. But one day you'll look back at this phase and realize it wasn't blocking you. It was building you. The first $1,000 isn't a financial milestone. It's an identity transformation. And once that identity changes, the numbers have no choice but to follow. Before you click away, I want you to pause for a second. If this video felt personal, that's because it is. Every trader remembers their first struggle. Every trader remembers doubting themselves. Every trader remembers staring at their laptop wondering, is this even worth it? And if you're in that stage right now, chasing that first $1,000, I want you to understand something clearly. You're not failing. You're forming. The market isn't rejecting you. It's refining you. The discipline you're building right now, the emotional control you're struggling to develop, the patience that feels painful, that's the real profit. Money is just the byproduct. So don't measure your journey only by your account balance. Measure it by your behavior. Are you more patient than last month? Are you following your rules more consistently? Are you thinking in probabilities instead of emotions? If the answer is yes, even slightly, you're progressing. And I truly believe this. The trader who refuses to quit, who chooses discipline over dopamine, who chooses structure over shortcuts, eventually wins. Not fast, but permanently. If this video helped shift your perspective even a little bit, let me know in the comments. Tell me where you are right now in your journey. Are you below $1,000? Close to it? Already past it but still struggling mentally? I read those. And if this message resonated with you, hit the like button so more traders who are silently struggling can see this too. Share this with someone who's about to give up. And subscribe if you want more content that's not just hype, but real honest growth in trading. We're not here to gamble. We're here to evolve. I'll see you in the next one.